It's not stable because a storm hit it. And I think I brought this up because what if Alligator Alcatraz gets flooded? Electric wires and water. Not good bedfellows. So instead of building hospitals, schools, U.S. government's building cages for migrants costing $500 million a year. And they say it can survive hurricanes. That doesn't look hurricane proof. Yeah, that looks sturdy. However, there was a segment from Fox News that I'd like to share with all of you as well.
Florida Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds joins me now. Great to see you, Congressman. So it's kind of amazing. It's been took 8 days to build. It's rated at a Cat 2 hurricane strength, and the first guests are.
Now, listen, there was water by electric cables. Those tents looked flimsy. Okay, listen, I'm not a weather expert. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not a paleontologist. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a Scientologist or any of those things. You know, not even a radiologist. But I think I do know that Florida has suffered hurricanes far bigger than a Category 2, and because of our recent coverage after doing 8 years of Hardlands Media, there's always been a news segment that we've done at least once or twice a year from 2017 all the way up now to 2025, 8 years strong, of some kind of super hurricane hitting Florida. And they're getting worse and worse. Eventually, scientists are going to have to come up with a Category 6. What happens if a Category 3, 4, 5, 6 hits the Alligator Alcatraz? What's going to happen to the security guards, the inmates, and goodness gracious Cretaceous, the gators? Anybody think about that?
Slated to start arriving tomorrow.
No, that's absolutely correct. I was down there today for, I guess, opening day for Alligator Alcatraz. And first, you have to give full credit to Governor DeSantis, Kevin Guthrie, and their entire team. They met the challenge that came from Secretary Noem and her team here at Homeland Security, and they moved quickly to get this facility open. To the point that was made by some of the radicals talking about how these are concentration camps, these facilities actually look very similar to the ones Joe Biden was setting up in Fort Bliss, in Texas, and many other military bases when they were letting in more than 10 million people into the United States. When Joe Biden was losing 800,000 children in the United States, they were moving through facilities similar to this. When young girls were being on the journey to our border, being sold into sex slavery or being raped on that journey, they were moving through facilities that look similar to this. I know that because I've toured those facilities. So what we're doing here is actually preparing the bed space that is necessary for them to be deported out of the United States, meeting the mandate and the mission given to President Trump by the American people.
You mentioned the children and the fact that that story, some of us have covered that story, obviously, but the fact that a large swath of the media completely buried that story, I hope will come back to haunt the media.
Yeah. But hold on. This is something else that's going to haunt the media, okay, in due time. Because the new migrant detention center, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz, faced minor flooding within a day of its opening. President Donald Trump visited the center in the Everglades. Visited the center in the Everglades, Florida, on Tuesday to mark its opening. After he left, a storm caused about 1.5 inches of rain to fall on the facility, according to estimates from the National Weather Service in Miami. So, why is this important? Why does this matter? Because this is kind of an inhumane situation that we're witnessing here, okay? You know, it's no better than the kids in cages. And the thing is, location is key. Location is very important. Now, Florida, being a state that is notorious for being hit by tropical storms and hurricanes, you know, having a stable facility, a strong building, a strong foundation matters a lot. And as we have covered before in the past, a lot of these storms can be very devastating. And I want to pull this up here. These are just a few screenshots. You know, day one of Alligator Alcatraz, where 28,000 feet of razor wire now surround 39 square mile site. The site was open beds, though it stays, though state operations could scale to soon to 3,000 beds. So here's some of the details right now. Max capacity, 3,000 detainees, staff, 1,000, 200 cameras, 400 plus security personnel, other staff, legal advisors, medical personnel, available resources, legal, clergy, laundry, AC, and a rec yard. All right, so quick look inside what the detainment tent looks like here at Alligator Alcatraz. I can't believe I'm even saying these words. A good little storm passed by. The state says the site here can withstand a Category 2 hurricane. What about a 3, 4, 5, or God forbid a 6, huh? That's right. We got to talk about that. But also, this says a lot about us as a country too, because this sounds like something from like Asylum House, you know, or like a Grindhouse movie, you know. This looks like a Grindhouse kind of movie film. For those who don't know, those were like those films in the 1970s. They were cheap B movies, notoriously violent, extremely graphic in exploitation and so much more. Alligator Alcatraz. Alligator Alcatraz. This is Alligator Alcatraz, America's darkest secret, hidden in the Florida Everglades. Security guards go mad with power as they feed the detainees to gators. Because now, look at this. Merchandise for sale by Florida Republicans. Who wants to wear this? You know, I'm afraid now that I can't put gators in the chat anymore. I'm afraid I can never do that again. That's what I'm afraid of. Gator Gitmo. Oh, who wrote that? Lady Alex, go see the White House counselor right now. Go. Gator Gitmo. So t-shirts, hats, beverage coolers touting Alligator Alcatraz and ICE immigration detention facilities being built in the Everglades are for sale at the Florida GOP online store. Florida GOP. You can't be that desperate for money. In a social media post on X, Florida GOP wrote, "Feds approve Alligator Alcatraz, Florida's gator-guarded prison for illegal aliens. Surrounded by swamps and pythons, it's a one-way ticket to regret. Grab our merch to support tough on crime borders. Limited supply. Get yours before the gators do." T-shirts are selling for $30. A hat is $27. And a set of slime, said slime. Ha, read that wrong. Slim beverage coolers go for $15. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No. Is this really it? Is this what we've become? This is it. Look, this is it. Look at this. Alligator Alcatraz. 47 because of Florida. Well, okay, guys. If this is what you wanted, fine. But something tells me somewhere down the road, everyone's going to regret this. But there is something going on. There is a lawsuit. On the other side, on Friday, environmental groups filed a lawsuit to halt construction of the detention center, saying it threatens ecologically sensitive areas and species in the surrounding Everglades and Big Cypress National Preserve. The lawsuit filed by the group Friends of the Everglades and the Center for Biological Diversity alleges that the federal and state agencies have violated laws that, in part, require elevating potential environmental impacts before such a project can move forward. The lawsuit said the National Environment Policy Act requires federal agencies to prepare evaluations of projects that could significantly affect the environment. It said, for example, that the planned detention center is in an area that serves as a habitat for endangered and threatened species such as the Florida panther. I didn't know there was a panther there. Governor DeSantis responded to the backlash by emphasizing his longstanding support for Everglades restoration. He dismissed the claims that the detention center would cause environmental harm, pointing to his administration's record investments in preserving the wetlands. There's zero environmental impact. You're talking about a guy who's plowed how much money into the Everglades restoration, DeSantis said. Why would I do anything harmful? In fact, I had to fight to get the Everglades fully funded. He also pushed back on critics suggesting their opposition was politically motivated. They're trying to use the Everglades as a pretext because they oppose immigration enforcement. And this facility costs $450 million annually and is partially funded by FEMA's Shelter and Services Program. While Florida has taken the lead in building and planning to operate the facility, the federal government will pay for it. And in turn, you, the U.S. citizen, will as well. But hey, get your merch before it's too late. And just a quick reminder, it was hit by a storm. What could go wrong? Water, electricity, maybe a superstorm heading in that area. The weather will kill the inmates long before the gators do, or the wildlife. On a personal note, we covered on yesterday's show that Trump was jokingly saying every state should have one. Every state should have an Alligator Alcatraz. Well, I worry about the cost of what this will do to us as a country mentally. You know, this is like something you see in the movies, or something that you see in a TV show, or even a parody on The Simpsons. This is parody. I can't help but even think about the incident where Lisa Simpson, who was so upset about getting a B on her test, dreamt herself in the future where she was running for president, but apparently in that fantasy of hers, she lied about getting straight A's and was sentenced to serve life on Monster Island. And instead of being Monster Island, it was actually Peninsula. She's being chased by monsters. Alligator Alcatraz. The cost. The stupidity of the name. The long-term consequences. And is this fully sustainable? You know, I can't help but think of, they were so excited if they could, they never thought about if they should, the location and everything else.